So I've been playing around and I've got a little mage build that I'm running that I thought I'd show off. So basically, what I'm doing, all right, is you'll see I've got some crit 0, combo 23, regens at 4.99%, and then of course micro minor, and then 1600 skill damage and 1700% attack bonus. And then as far as the actual statue goes, running this for the statue, so all global attack, right? Relics. Here you can either give yourself crit or combo. Just depends on whatever you're wanting to play with. You can also give yourself skill crit rate if you want. It's really up to you. If you go with crit rate, you'll just be taking advantage of the ever so small amount of crit damage that you've got, which is 2900%, right? But for the most part, you'll probably benefit from, say, getting yourself skill crit rate if you don't already have crit rate, and that'll give you a little bit better skill crit. And really, primarily, what you're doing here is, if you can see my skill set, I'm running, oddly enough, right? There's no reason to use Worldly Snare, right? I was playing around with crit earlier, so I was just kind of playing around with it. But skill-wise, most of the time, you'll probably wind up using something like Baddie Trace, or if you're trying to tank things, you may take like Clone Strike out and do something more like this. So I'll just go ahead and synergize real quick. But you would do something like this, for example. That gives you successive casts and basically just pumps up your damage and lets you live a little bit longer as a mage. And then as for the pals, this is the current pal roster that I'm running. So I'm just adding skill damage and then giving myself some more skill crit and just buffing anything that's basically going to make the mage that much better. It's relatively straightforward. As far as souls go, I'm just going 50 on this, 40 on that, 44 on this for the boss damage. And then adding some into Eye of the Abyss and some into Wildlife Piercer. You might think, well, that seems kind of silly, right? Because you're giving yourself combo. Like, what are you going to gain from that, really? And honestly, really about the only reason I do it is just so that I can do more damage to bosses. Because you really tend to find in PvE that you need the damage. Because like even here, right? Even though I've got all the health and everything, the timer, more than anything, is actually what's holding me back. Now, even here, you can see I'm starting to slowly but surely die. Even though the skill casts come back and it, gives back a lot of that HP. And even with the regen, it's still, it's keeping me holding on, but I don't do enough damage to be able to really successfully fire it off. And so like part of the reason why I'm, even trying to get Dense Cloud, I'm trying to get basically inert gas, burst impact, talent skill, and then maybe even dilemma, because you want to grab as many of the options that you can possible in the actual so like for example, like if I could get this in there, get this in there, give myself all those crit bonuses, I would think it would work really well. That said, you also want to pay attention to the growth. Make sure the growth is high. That one's only 0.84, so it's not very good. Trying to get it so that I can get a higher growth rate with those skills. It's just kind of one of those things that's unfortunately very time consuming and kind of a numbers game. So we'll go ahead and just for the sake of it, I'll show you what I mean. But like, say for example, you breed two, like, I don't know, like, let me see if I can find one in this mess. Preferably you want something that has the traits that you're looking for, but you also don't want to neglect their growth either. So like this has all the traits that I want, but now I want something that has a substantially higher growth rate. If you look at the breed preview and go to growth range, it gives you an idea of what the range is. So it goes from 1.76 to 1.36. And this, obviously, if you're wanting to nitpick it even further, you can go into here and pick a higher growth rate, and you'll notice that, the logical number goes from 0.76 to 1.5. So you run an even higher chance potentially of running something that's in that range or higher. Now, if you were to, like, say, for example, maybe not focus so much on the, maybe the actual, um, you know, oh, like, for example, let's say if I run, I'll go ahead and do it in that case, but like what you would do basically is pair very similar growth rates and try to get it so that you have a lot of growth. And then just by doing that over and over and over, you'll eventually acquire better and better versions. And the reason why growth is important here, by the way, in case you didn't already know, basically you need growth in order to really get the stat bonuses that come along with the avian. I mean, basically think of that as the multiplier on it. You need that to be higher in order to really get the benefit. And so, you have to kind of try and pick your avians carefully, and you want to try and get as many of them in the direction for your class as possible. In the case of running a mage, a dense cloud, I think, is pretty much a given. It's not the only one you have to use, though. You could, if you wanted to use pumpkin witch, go this route and just make skill crits go off like crazy. But again, just like how it is with any other class, right? You've got to be mindful of the fixes that you can get and acquire for them. Of course, there is also the last 10 hours left for the Conquest of Realms, so if you guys are looking at potentially diving into this and getting any of the items, now is your chance. Of course, if you want to save some money, watch this part of the video because it will save you quite a bit.